Hi, and welcome to LinkedIn Live Insights from a Headhunter. And today we have a guest with us, Jules White, all the way from the UK. Hi, Jules.
Hi, Tina. So good to be here. I'm so excited.
Me too. And I think you're the first person who has had a TED Talk who is on my live, and not only a TED Talk, but you were also on Dragon's Den. So you secured an investment from the dragons.
Yes,
And, and you also have written this lovely book called Live It, Love It, Sell It.
yes.
So I'm super, super excited to have you here and ask questions today.
And I'm really excited you asked me. It's so lovely to finally see you and talk to you, Tina, because we talk regularly, don't we, on Clubhouse, but we don't actually see each other when we do that. So it's so nice to see you as well.
Yes, finally. So I'm I'm so excited about it. So everyone who is joining us, say hello in the comments and say where you're tuning in from. And if you have any questions, just leave them in the comments. So, like I told you, I have read your book, seen your TED Talk, and when I saw the book, my first thought was, it's quite a thin one, so I will get through it quite quickly. Boy, was I wrong. don't don't judge the book by its cover, because I think it took me the double the time as I was imagining, because it's half of it is what you bring yourself, your experiences, and there are so many exercises. And I think the best thing you get out of the book is by doing the exercises, and then the magic happens.
Yeah, it's so funny because when people speak to me having read the book, they'll say all sorts of things like, it took me so long because I did all the exercises. And then other people will say, I read it really quick and now I'm going to go back and do the exercises. So everybody reads it in a different way. There's actually 24 exercises throughout the book. And, I took a year to write the book, Tina, which is actually quite important in the journey of that book because I needed it to be really considered and I needed to share the right bits with everybody because it was quite an important book for me to write, I felt. I'd worked for 30 years in sales and I'd been taught to sell to death, taught. And actually, my conclusion after all that time was, well, actually, this is about you and your uniqueness and human conversation. So, there was something missing in all of that training that I'd had for all those years. And that's what made me want to put that book together the way I did. So, yeah, I'm so happy you loved it.
Yes, because I think like one of the first question is what are your thoughts when you hear the word sales? And mine is like eek, eek, when somebody tries to sell you something, when they want to trick you into something. And I have been to sales courses and met sales trainers, and so I think it's very valuable to job seekers, um, your philosophy, and also to entrepreneurs, who small business owners, to understand the shift, that sales, it's not about tricking anyone, it's really about helping.
Yeah, absolutely. I love how you bring the job seekers piece into this because one of the big things I talk about is that life skills are sales skills. So, actually, all those lovely skills you already have that you've had since you were a child are the amazing skills that you use when you sell. And we sell every day. You hear us talk about that, don't you? And aren't children the best salespeople when they're just like so persistent, but in that beautiful, authentic way, because they have no fear and they're very natural at trying to express what they want, and getting what they need. And I love that. I love to look at all of the kind of human psychology around selling ourselves as well as our businesses and our products. So yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, and one of the chapters, like I think we can go through the five myths, because that's something that we have all heard so many times, and we believe in them, and like you said, they are all wrong and unhelpful.
Yes, absolutely.
So like the one that you need to be an extrovert to sell, because I'm a total introvert.
Yeah. You need to be you to sell is kind of the real sentence here. And I think, we've very often met the salespeople who are very extrovert and are very out there and confident. And that often makes us feel like, well, we couldn't be salespeople because we're not like that. So there's lots of reasons why these are myths. And it's just, I just delve into that really, and I want to break that down. The biggest thing I want to do in my book is banish the fear that's around sales, because that's the big thing I think that sits in the middle of all this. It's all fear-based stuff, isn't it? So all those myths are based around things we've been told we should do and should be, and of course it's not like that at all, because people buy people. So
Exactly, um, s- s- and once a sales coach told me that, yeah, it's. I thought that you wouldn't be able, but you seem to be doing really well with the Scandinavian clients, and that's it. It's about relationships building and getting trust, and it's not about talking loud and fast and, yeah, tricking people. So
yeah, absolutely. One of the problems I think with this is that in the 80s, which is a period I remember because I'm old, in the 80s, we were very much taught how to sell based on the fact that actually nobody had internet, nobody had Google, nobody had that knowledge we now have. So whatever the salesperson said was true. So we were king as salespeople. And I think that built up this kind of bravado and the scripts and
oh,
the
yes.
things you say to close the deal, and you got to buy it now because it won't be available tomorrow, and all these ludicrous things that we were taught to say when we were trained to sell. It's not like that now. The buyer is king. The buyer is the one who's in charge and makes the choices. And we're all buyers. That's the other thing. The other part of this is, if you're worried about selling, imagine you also buy. So just shift and put yourself in the shoes of the buyer. And suddenly you realize actually how you buy, what you like to talk about, what you like to feel when someone's selling to you. And that's really helpful to start making those shifts as well.
And I was very surprised to find a chapter about love yourself. And I was like, what does that have to do with sales? I was like, Jules, what is happening? I wanted to read a book about sales.
Exactly. So yeah, let's just cover that, because if you don't believe in what you're selling to me, then you should never expect me to believe in it too. And that's the philosophy around this, because it's about this inner confidence that you have something of value. And that's really important. It starts with you. That's ultimately where this all starts, which is where I start with Live It. I very much focus on the fear and the myths and, your mindset stuff. Because if that's not right, you can't even begin to sell anything to anyone. So you've got to start with you. So you've got to love you. That's really, really important. And then you've got to love the person you're trying to sell to. That doesn't mean we've got to have romantic things and get married to everybody. This is about a connection, a love connection, where it just feels good and it feels easy and we feel curious and interested in people. That's the connection I believe happens in good, authentic selling.
Yeah, and like you said, there were sales scripts, and everyone recognizes when they are somebody is reading a script,
Yeah.
It doesn't feel right. It doesn't. It's the same thing when you get an automated message on LinkedIn. You see that they send the same message to everyone. You don't feel special. You don't feel unique. That's not how you reach other human beings. Maybe other robots. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? I think I go back to the 80s. I think we had this whole philosophy that buyers are a bit stupid. So actually, we could sell them anything, we can tell them anything, and they'll believe us. But they didn't have all of the the visibility that they have now with internet, etc. And the globe is so much smaller, isn't it? We're so much wiser through that. And I think, part of it for me is actually respecting our buyer, and saying to ourselves, actually, let's find out who they are. Let's step into their world and see what they think value looks like, see what they actually want to achieve. It's not all about that salesperson anymore. It's about a two-way conversation, which is what I love,
Exactly.
And actually, I think I've always sold that way. Even when they tried to train me to do it in a different way, I actually just defaulted back to that curious, nosy, as my dad would call me, person. And I created relationships. That's what I did. So, yeah.
Yeah, and you also talk about the storytelling, to have your story. And I think it's so important for business owners because that if you have your story right, people will relate to you and want to buy from you. Or if you're a job seeker, if you can clearly show the passion already started when you were younger and you have developed, and that's what fascinates people. So you really have to find your strengths and build on that story.
Yeah, storytelling's huge and it's talked about a lot. It's kind of become a bit of a buzzy thing, which I'm happy about because I love stories. But I think what we really need to understand is actually how we use stories and how important, and why they're important. And there's the whole conversation really around stories, Tiina, which is fascinating because for one, they create a chemical reaction in your body. Stories do.
Yes.
It's a physical thing. I mean, who's the person who cries at the movies? Me with the tissues, or if I see a video of somebody telling their story, I can often be in tears. It's just, that's how it touches me, those stories.
Ex-
And that's
Exactly.
that's so important when we connect as humans. But the story has to be relevant. So it's okay to use stories, but understand why you're using that story. Why is that story important in that particular instance? What does it mean to the person listening to the story? And I talk about my dad a lot, Tiina, don't I? You must have heard me
Yes.
always talking about my beautiful dad. And my mum was wonderful too. And he passed away. In fact, on Thursday, it will be 6 years since he left. And it's the stories he left behind, the experiences that then I can share. And they're all related to sales because that's kind of where I learned how to sell from my dad. So that's why they're important to use in the right way. They're lovely. I love stories.
Yes, and it's through those stories that we keep his memory alive. And I know more about your father than many other people who have parents who are alive. But
Yeah.
you bring those stories, and I remember from last conversation we had on Clubhouse. So it's only audio. You can't see the person. It's no Hollywood special effects, and like nobody had dry eyes. Like everyone had suddenly an onion next to them, and that's how powerful storytelling is.
It is, and it connects back into another important thing, and that's listening. Because again, here's another part of us connecting as humans when we truly listen to each other. That's so important, especially in job seeking. I always think about like the whole interview thing, which I haven't had to do for some time because luckily I've been running my own business. But I always think about that, and I think about the fact that we always have to remember it's a two-way conversation. It doesn't have to feel like it's just somebody asking at us. And actually,
Interrogation. Yeah.
it's massively important, isn't it, Tiina? That, and that's again the selling process, isn't it? A two-way conversation, so that it's that meeting of minds and understanding. It's so important.
Exactly. I think the most powerful interviews that I heard is really when the candidate is proactive, has done their research, knows the organization, the client, and they can ask the right questions, meaning they show interest, exactly the same things that you were mentioning.
Yeah, yeah, it's very similar in how it all works, I believe, because it
Yeah.
is a form of selling, isn't it? It's selling yourself. So yes, all of this is relevant, Tiina. Yeah.
So let me dive into the comments here. We
Yeah.
have Nola, lovely Nola is joining us from Canada.
Hi, Nola.
Hi. She's really good at storytelling as well. She has marvelous stories.
Amazing.
Hello, ladies, and good evening from India.
Hello.
JHO. We also have good conversations on Clubhouse and our
Kevin.
Tab Foreign friends, Kevin.
Fab.
Good to see you and hear you both, Tina and Jules. Hello from Dallas. And Kevin was donating blood today, so
Was I
good,
saw.
good on you. Well done.
Fantastic.
Seems a must-read book. 24 exercises seems a very different concept. Yes, I could talk for hours what I went through. I filled another book with my answers, and like you said, it took you 1 year to write the book, and you know exactly the journey that I was going through, and you said, when you have answered the question, those things will happen to you. Isn't it magical? I was like, how did you know?
It's so true. And interspersed with the exercises are kind of the stories, I guess, and my experiences as
Yes.
well, which it's been a joy to do. So that's been great.
And it's not only like success, like we think it looks so easy for somebody who has had a TED talk and who has this success from Dragons Den, but you share everything what has happened to you on your journey, so it's really relatable and makes respect you so much more.
Thank you.
And Nola says creating a personal brand on LinkedIn can really warm up the conversations with clients.
Be bingeable. I love that. That's great. I love that.
And she says, "Oh yes, scripts are awful. They are very. I think we get like, ooh, we stop listening when we hear a script.
I mean,
Oh,
there's a big debate. Just quickly, there's a big debate about scripts in that conversations I've had before have said, yeah, but actually scripts can support people who are, more nervous about what they need to say if they're perhaps starting out. And I always say, well, then make bullet points rather than a script. If you really have to have something, then just pick out those key things so that your conversation around it is normal, natural conversation. Because we know when you're reading a script, all of us. So yeah, it's a good point, and that's lovely, Gillian, isn't it? Hello,
yes.
lovely.
Hello, ladies from Las Vegas. Hi, Gillian. We were just talking about the way storytelling is so important, and Gillian has so many stories that should be written in a book.
Yes,
So
we said that on Monday, didn't we? Last night, wasn't
yes.
it? So, yeah, absolutely. She's a great storyteller.
um,
Takes the
yes, Jules is taking the ick out of sales. Totally,
yeah,
totally.
yeah.
We have Vanessa here. A good story is a connection between you and the reality. What matters is really your meaning for it. Yeah, so bringing your unique self, it's so important because nobody else on this planet has had the same experiences
No,
um,
no.
as you. So it's really valuable.
Yeah.
We have Johannes. Hello, ladies from Beirut. And
Hey,
yes,
Brute. Wow, this is really global. How fabulous is this?
yes. And headhunting and recruiting is also selling. And yes, if you don't have a genuine sales story, you cannot succeed. So it it is sales, but it's really about connecting and I really liked what you said, that don't um, make relationships, not sales.
Yeah,
It's
yeah. Always, always. Because, like, the other thing about this is that A, we won't sell to everyone. That there's another myth there, is that we have to sell to everybody, and we won't. And also that's okay. But on that journey of connection and conversation, you don't know who you're going to connect with, who then will take you to another part of your journey. And that's the magic, I think, of this human connection type of selling. Um, and I've seen it in my own business, where I've coached somebody who maybe wouldn't have been this ideal customer. If you did a little bit of an avatar, as they call them, this person wouldn't have necessarily been that person, but they found me, they'd followed me, they came to me and they said, I want to work with you. Brilliant. I thought inside, oh my goodness, can I help them? Not only did I help them, but I helped another 6 people who they then told about me. And that's the beauty of connecting in that authentic way. That's what it's about, I think. So, yeah, it's huge, isn't it, really, as a subject, Tiina?
I think you're one of the few sales coaches um, who I really admire, and because you're such a nice person, and the way you talk about sales, like how many people say love it in the same sentence with sales? Not that many.
So true.
So my question is, can anyone learn to sell?
Yeah, absolutely. I believe they can. I'm not sure everybody wants to be a salesperson as a job.
Yeah.
I do believe that everybody can sell. And I think it's about learning the right things about it. So, as we said earlier, not learning process, steps of the sale and scripts, but actually learning what really makes a great salesperson. And that's the understanding your values, mindset, loving what you do, loving yourself and what you have to offer, and being unique. Your UHP, as I call it, Tiina, your
Oh,
unique
yeah.
human proposition. We've had USPs for years, our unique selling proposition. But I believe it's about your unique human proposition. That's the most important thing. We've all got that. That's amazing, isn't it? Isn't that exciting? So that's why we can all sell, but we do have to, I think, really look at what sales really means. And that's why I wrote the book, I guess.
Yes, and like I said, there are things in the book that I was like, oh, I didn't know this was part of the whole journey. So it's much bigger. Like there could you please explain this picture?
This is fabulous. I don't suppose we've got the picture to be able
I
to show people, but
I
we
have
put
it
it in the
here.
book.
Let me see.
So this is something that actually is from old school training, and maybe people may have heard of this, but we call it the 5 bare bums on a rugby post. But actually what it's about is remembering how your open questions start. So open questions are the lovely questions that you can't say yes or no to. So they actually gather information. They start a conversation, which is why they're called open. And if you remember this lovely picture of the bare bums, some people don't say bare, but I do. They're actually W's, if you imagine, sitting on the rugby post. And they all stand for the words that we start the open questions with, which are things like what and where and why and I think there's a when, what, why, where, who I've got in there. And then the rugby post creates an H for the question how, because there's another amazing open question, which is how. And this is about provoking conversation. This is about being curious. And this is about thinking about when you do ask a question, make it relevant, make it a cool, smart question. Give it a reason to be asked as opposed to just the things you think you should ask, you know? I think also we're a little bit, well, certainly in the UK, sometimes we're a bit reserved and we're not brave enough sometimes to ask the questions we would love to ask. And I say, ask them. Don't offend anybody, but I say, be curious, ask that question. And you would be amazed the conversation that then comes after that.
It's really about daring to ask the questions, because otherwise you will not know. And I think what people enjoy when they are being interviewed, that somebody is interested in them.
Yeah.
And just when somebody listens to you, that's like half of the job done. So if you show interest, that's really a win.
It is a win, and the questions you ask can show how interested you really are, you know, and it's a massive connector, that is, when you ask great questions. If anyone ever says to you, that's a great question, when you've asked a question, you know it was a good question. It's really got them thinking, that's a great question. You can sort of see them ticking away, you know. They're good questions. So, yeah.
So sometimes I say that to win time.
Well, I usually say it because it's really got deep and
Yeah.
got me thinking about something that's quite exciting. So yeah.
It's something that you really have to go back and think about.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Yeah.
and then we go from the story when we go from hell to heaven. I
Yeah.
like that one as well.
Oh my goodness. So this is one of those light bulb exercises, and it's all about emotion. So, you know, when you think about how we've traditionally sold features and benefits and in a very practical way, actually I've scrapped that in my methodology. And I've said, right, okay, let's think about how somebody feels before you actually engage with them and maybe sell to them or even have an interview with them. How do they feel in their what I call hell? And I know it's a horrible word, but we all know what that means. So it's that lowest place. It's the place where you need the help. It's the place you're starting from. How do you feel emotionally? And when you start throwing out one word, emotional words, it's really powerful because you're stepping into that emotional place that someone's in, that you're about to speak to and find out about. And the heaven is when you've worked with them or when you've sold to them or maybe when you've even been employed by them. That's the heaven then, because they've now come to that place where they've found the solution and it's, yeah, all those lovely emotions. So you make the heaven list, which everybody can do really easily. It's the hell list that people struggle with. But we have to acknowledge the hell in order to sell. You know, there's another little saying really that I talk about. So it's a wonderful exercise to do to start really stepping into the emotions of connecting with people.
And I really like your stories because you can really relate to that. You have been in the same situation and which steps you took so that you could get to the heaven. But
Yeah.
do you necessarily have to have been in the same hell than your buyer so to get to heaven?
No, you don't have to have necessarily been there yourself in that specific situation. But there's a big thing called empathy. And actually, when we do try to at least appreciate somebody's situation and how they're feeling, we feel like somebody's creating empathy with us. And it's a nice feeling because it feels like they care and they're at least trying to understand, even if they don't fully understand. That's very powerful. So yeah, you might not have had exactly the same experience, but often I think when you are dealing with your ideal customer, talking from the sales entrepreneur side of things, they're often who you used to be.
Yeah.
So you really do know who they are. Yeah. And there's
That
another
was
light bulb moment.
a mic drop.
Yeah,
I was like, oh,
yeah, exactly.
you
So
are so right, Jules.
so it's lovely because then there really is that connection. It's super. Yeah.
And I like the example that you had with the, I think it was a divorce lawyer who became divorce coach, who
I'm
in
just
your
trying.
book. So somebody who hasn't gone through the divorce was
Yes.
a divorce lawyer.
Yes.
Uh, and how is that possible? But like you explained, it's the empathy and working and having experience, being able to guide you from your hell to.
Exactly. Exactly that. Yeah. Exactly. When you look at entrepreneurs and what sort of businesses they run, if you did a survey, a lot of the time you would find out they were once their ideal customer, and that's why they now do what they do because of what they learned on their journey. So it's very very poignant that actually. Yeah.
So let me see. Rebecca has joined us as well, one of your fans.
Hey Rebecca, lovely to see you.
She made a really nice video book review.
Yeah.
I'm a
Thanks.
bit late, but so fantastic to see you lovely ladies together. Great topic. Yeah. It's really a valuable book. Get it. And my next question is, when will we see the second book?
That was a cheeky question, wasn't it? I am actually writing it. Yeah, it's not quite what people might expect, so I can't really give too much away. But I am writing it. I've had a super busy year, which I'm awfully grateful for. But it means that it's been a bit slower writing it than I was hoping to. So I'm scheduling it for next year, and that's giving me a big window to publish it. But next year, you should see my second book because it's all mapped out, and I know exactly what I'm going to write about. So.
So at least this time next year, I will be here with a new book
Yes,
on your book launch, and
yes,
hopefully,
you heard it here.
it's a commitment now.
Yes, yes.
Uh, so where could people find you?
Yeah, I mean, obviously on LinkedIn, I'm Jules White. There is another two or three actually, and one's a man. But Jules White, and you should be able to see I've got sales done uniquely, I think, in my description. And certainly there'll be some UHP stuff around, so that you'll find me there as well. But live it, love it, sell it is really the key to everything because it's the name of the book, it's the methodology, and it's just everything that I live from, really. So if you Googled that, you would be able to find most of the places I hang out. But LinkedIn's a big one. So connect with me on there. That would be lovely.
So LinkedIn, you have a presence on Instagram and on Facebook, and you have a wonderful website as well with the same name. So this is where people should connect with you. And I want to thank you so much for coming today on this LinkedIn Live. I'm very grateful for you sharing your time with us.
Oh, it's been so lovely chatting, and I hope everyone who's been listening in, thank you for joining from around the world. I hope it's been helpful, and I'm going to make sure I go into the comments as well later and say hello to everyone. So.
Yes, and if you're watching the replay, put the hashtag replay so we can reply to you as well. Thank you so much, Jules.
Thank you, Tiina.
Bye-bye.